In recent weeks, seeing some other YouTubers make videos about their Division I stories, and after getting a few requests for mine, I decided to tell my experiences of what it was like being a Division I athlete and what it took for me to get there. My name is Karsten Nieder, you know me as KTO, and this is my Division I story. This story is more of how I became a Division I athlete. And to start the story, we have to go all the way back to my childhood.
I like football. I'm running back. I played tackle this year. I like the Browns. I'm gonna be fast.
My love for football has always been there. My parents said when I was around 3 or 4, I would sit and watch an entire game. I wouldn't even know the teams playing, so I would just choose a color to cheer for. Let's say red. And when the red team would lose, I would be so upset, I would cry all night about it. So I grew up in Boise, Idaho. And like any other kid, I had big aspirations of playing in the NFL. This one time, I was late for the school bus and ended up running from my house to the bus. The bus driver opened the door and said, "Kid, you got here pretty quick." I told him, "Yeah, I'm gonna play college ball someday." He looked at me, laughed, and said, "Kid, quit dreaming. You will never play college ball." To this day, I can remember that moment so vividly. As far as my football story, well, dominance for me came early. I was always the fastest and quickest kid on the field in every game I played. I remember around the age of 10, I had a season where I averaged nearly 4 touchdowns a game. One of my coaches, a former offensive lineman for Boise State, showed tape of me to Boise State's then head coach, Chris Peterson. Obviously I'm like 10, so he wouldn't have cared that much, but as a kid, I was freaking out. He was the biggest name in town since we didn't have pro sports teams. It would be like Nick Saban in Alabama. Throughout middle school, I played football, basketball, and ran track. I always excelled at football. We had this game in 9th grade. I had scored 4 touchdowns in the first quarter. In middle of the second quarter, I took a handoff 80 yards to the house for my 5th touchdown, but it was called back. And well, that was my last play. The coaches decided since we were up 60-0 in the second quarter, maybe we shouldn't keep the starters in. As for basketball, I was average. I was all athleticism and no skill. And for some reason, I was just terrible at track. Like, just embarrassing. One of my current roommates told me that his sisters were faster than me at that age. I wasn't even ranked in the top 200 in my state in the 100, which in the state of Idaho, that's pretty awful. Going into high school football, I was done with basketball, I was done with track, completely focused on football. My first ever play on varsity ended up being a 60-yard run, and it was the only carry I had that week. So it was kind of funny looking on Max Preps and seeing my name in the top 5 in the nation in yards per carry. During my junior year, I performed well. It was enough to receive some college interest and invites to Division I camps. I remember walking into my coach's office one day, and the University of Idaho's coach was sitting there waiting to talk to me. He told me they saw my speed on tape and were looking to use me as slot receiver. Although I did well, I had my fair share of injuries, broken ribs, stress fractures in my back, but the worst was this one game my junior year. So as the play is developing, I'm running a wheel route out of the backfield. Our quarterback throws the ball to me, and as I catch it, I turn around, and this guy picks me up and slams me on my back, driving his helmet into my jaw. When it happened, I began frantically looking for missing teeth, because when I bit down, I felt nothing. Well, I didn't lose any teeth. It was because my jaw had shifted to the right about 3 or 4 inches. A dentist came down from the stands, and after he looked at my mouth, said I wasn't allowed to go back at the game. I had broken my jaw in multiple places. For the rest of the game, I stood on the sidelines with an ice pack on my face. And honestly, that was brutal, because it felt like a bone was sticking out of my ear. I went to the ER that night, and we scheduled surgery for the next day, which also happened to be my birthday. And from that day on, I had my jaw wired shut for 6 weeks. So yeah, that sucked. I missed freaking Thanksgiving. After the 6 weeks, my weight had dropped from 160 to 127. That ended my season. And because of the success and coaches telling me good track times would help me get even more looks in football, I decided to take track more serious. But with having problems in my back, I missed pretty much 3/4 of the track season, and by the time I was even ready to start practicing, it was pretty much too late. I had 0 training, and there was only 1 meet left to qualify for districts. And to explain how track championships work in Idaho, You run all year long trying to qualify for districts. To be able to qualify, you have to run a certain standard time they set, and the standard time for the 100 was 11:55. With no training, I ran an 11:55. If I would have ran 100th of a second slower, my life would be completely different. The next week at districts, they take the fastest 8 sprinters to state, and I think I ended up getting around 7th. This put me ranked 23rd out of 24 going into state. I shocked everyone and took 3rd, really out of nowhere. No one could believe it. And this moment completely shifted my thinking moving forward. All of a sudden, I had potential in track. I had run fast enough to stir some college interest, which had me excited. I was still focused on football, don't get me wrong, but the thought of college track was all of a sudden there. Senior year football, we were the favorites to win state, and I was ready to put on a clinic, which at the start, I did. I was leading the state in yards after 2 or 3 games. But here's where my senior year of football went completely south. After our second game, out of nowhere, our team's captain, the best D-end and overall player in the state, who ended up playing football in the SEC, had suddenly disappeared. He didn't show up to our second game, and no one knew why. The night after our second game, I get a call at 1 a.m. from my friend, who was the coach's son. He told me the dude randomly moved to California. He didn't tell anyone he was doing it. It was literally a decision he made the day of our second game. No one from my team has ever even seen or heard from him. He blocked all of us on social media, and the only information we had moving forward was news articles. To be honest, this is the most shocking thing that I've ever been a part of. And our team completely fell apart. We had won our first 2 games, and we lost the rest. It was demoralizing. I had a game where I started puking blood and was rushed to the ER. At halftime, at the ER, I watched on the TV as we lost by over 50 points. Just this whole season and all the injury stuff with my jaw and everything just made me question it all. I still had a bit of Division I interest for football, but I was pissed off. Just all of this negative energy was turned into track. Starting December, I worked my ass off. I wanted to absolutely dominate. The day after my final football game, I wrote on my bathroom mirror, "Beat Bryson," which was the kid who beat me at state the year before, win state, get a Division I scholarship, and break school records. After months of the most motivated training I've ever done, 2 meets into the outdoor season, I was number 1 in the state in the 100 and 200, and already had multiple Division I offers and official visits lined up. I was talking to coaches from Oregon, Washington State, and multiple others. Ever heard of the phrase, big fish in a small pond? Well, that was me. I dominated pretty much every race that year. I remember showing up to meets and having kids from schools that I've never even heard of come up to me. Coaches from other schools taking pictures with me, parents of kids that didn't know me, asking me how I'd gotten so fast out of nowhere. I remember showing up late to one of my relay zones before a race, and the look of defeat the other runners had on their face was so priceless. I ended up winning state in the 100 meter, while setting multiple school and stadium records along the way. When deciding where to go for school, because I didn't perform at what's considered good enough for top tier schools until my senior year, most of the scholarship money was taken up. My choices at this point, go to a small school for football, run at a big school for track for a limited scholarship, or take a big scholarship at a smaller Division I school. So I decided to turn down the few offers for football, and I went for the money, and committed to Sacramento State University for track and field. For the first 18 years of my life, with my heart and soul, I believed I was playing college football. And halfway through my second semester of my senior year in high school, that all changed. Let me tell you, even at a lower tier D1, it was pretty sick. We got free shoes, spikes, shirts, you name it. When you travel, they give you money to spend however you want. I also got to run for a coach who was an Olympic gold medalist. And I even got to race former NFL players who are now doing track instead of football. One of the bigger names I remember was Javid Best, who played for the Lions. The absolute best part about college track was the trips. We flew all over the country. Trips along the West Coast, Northern Colorado, Minnesota. We even got to go to Hawaii. Being on a plane and taking up about half of it with your team is pretty sick. I have to explain the first day of being on the road. You wake up at 3 a.m., be on the team bus by 3:30, get to the airport and get on a flight by 6, take multiple connecting flights, and finally arrive around 4 or 5 p.m. Then drop your stuff off at a hotel and go straight to practice. Get back to the hotel around 9, team meeting, and then ice bath and go to bed by 11. Then you wake up at 7 a.m. and hop on a bus to go compete by 10. I performed well my freshman year. I ended up getting second at my indoor conference championships in the 60 meter, which put me on the all-time top 10 performance lists in my school history. But college track was a reality check. I wasn't winning every race like I was in high school. In fact, it was the opposite. Most races, I got completely murdered. I once raced Ryan Bailey, a former Olympian who has raced Usain Bolt. When I raced him, he ran the fastest time in the world that year. So it's safe to say I wasn't even near him. After my freshman year, the coach who had recruited me had left, and I now had a new coach, which I never clicked with as much. And after dealing with multiple season-ending injuries and a series of other problems, after my third year of college track, I decided to call it quits and move forward with my life. Now I'm finishing up a bachelor's degree in the next year or so, mostly focused on YouTube. I do think about football from time to time. What if I decided to play college football instead of running track? When I was in 7th grade, I set 2 goals for myself: get a D1 scholarship and become a successful YouTuber. I've completed part 1. Now it's time for part 2.